Hey everybody, Chris, Four Directions Bushcraft. We're in the kitchen today. Unfortunately, we couldn't get out to the woods to do this. I'm going to make that salve that I make out of yarrow, plantain, beeswax, and olive oil. It's a lot easier to control in here. You don't want to heat up your herbs too much. If you heat up your herbs too much, it'll take away the medicinal value of your herbs, so you just want to heat them up real slow on light heat, and it's really easy. It's a lot easier to control that in here instead of a campfire. And we just couldn't get out to the woods, unfortunately, or I would be doing this in the woods. I would prefer to, but it is what it is. So if you come up a little closer, you can take a look at what I got here. I got some fresh, not dried out. I almost waited too long on some of this. Fresh yarrow leaves. The flowers didn't come up yet, but the leaves still have a lot of medicinal value in them. So we're just going to use those. And plantain that we just picked out of the yard. Fresh plantain. None of this is dried, obviously. We're going to chop all these up. I'll probably take some of this plantain out because I want more yarrow than I do plantain, because yarrow has more medicinal values than the plantain. Okay, so we're just, Brianna is chopping up our yarrow. She's starting out with scissors. We want it as fine, kind of as fine as we can get it. So as we cook it down in our olive oil, we get as much of the oils out of it as possible. Alright, so we have our yarrow and our plantain chopped up. We got our 100% beeswax. I got this online at on Amazon. You get like 6 bars of it for real cheap, $5 or something. And I couldn't find it in any store really around here where I live, so I just got it online. I'm just gonna probably break off a chunk of this. I don't know, there's not really a formula on how much of this you use. You just add it until you get the consistency that you want. So this is last year's batch that I did, and it turned out really, really, really good. So that's about the consistency. That's about the consistency that you want. So I can rub it on there. What I shoot for, because you don't want it to be too runny, and you don't want it to be obviously too thick. So Neosporin is the consistency that you want, and you just add beeswax until you get the consistency of Neosporin. So if you notice, we have our water. It's almost to a boil, but not quite. What I want to do is I want to turn it down until it's almost rolling. So I want to turn it down just a little bit, of course. Again, I don't want to overheat these herbs. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to mix these up in my little mason jar. I'm going to put yarrow in, then plantain, then yarrow, then plantain. Mix them up real good. And a lot of times, this is for demonstration. I will keep this batch, but I would pack this with herbs as tight as I could get it. A lot of herbs. So on this demonstration, I'm not going to pack it with herbs. I'm not going to spend the time. I only got a little bit of yarrow this time. It's early spring. It's not all up yet. I didn't want to pick too much. And I have a ton of this in the refrigerator already. This will last years in the refrigerator, maybe a couple of years before it goes bad. If you leave it out, it'll last maybe 6 months. So keep it refrigerated if you make a big batch of it. Give it away to your friends and stuff. Tell them to put it in their kit. Really good to take out in the woods. So anyway, just for demonstration purposes, I'm only going to fill it up to about there. There's our herbs. And I'm only going to fill the oil up until I see it just barely on the top. So extra virgin olive oil. Get the extra virgin olive oil. It's a little better as far as medicinally goes, and you're going to be putting it on your skin, so you don't want anything too cheap. So basically, if you can see this, I'm just going to add my oil. And again, I don't have a lot of herbs in here, so I just want to saturate it enough till the oil is on top of the herbs. So that's probably almost good. So it's just covering the herbs. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to set that in there till it's about halfway up the container. Now, if my herbs were all the way up the container, then I'd go ahead and put it in deeper water. This is a little more than halfway up the container, so my hot water, is about up to there. Now, if my herbs were all the way up there, then it'd be okay, but they're not, so I want to pour a little bit of this out. Just a little bit. Because the whole point of this is you don't want to get it too hot. If they overcook, then medicinally, you might as well throw it away. So we're going to let that cook for about 30 minutes to 45 minutes, and then we'll take a look at it and see how warm it's getting. So I just want it barely where it's almost a roll of boil, but not quite, so I'm going to turn it down just a little bit. Just want it to heat up slowly, and I want the water level to be right at my herbs there. About 45 minutes. I can see that my herbs have darkened a lot, like they're being cooked. So we're almost there, I think. Okay. So you can really tell the difference in the color of the olive oil now. Real dark green. That's really good. Got all the medicinal value out of those herbs. Some of my leftover herbs. I'll just let that drip for a while and get all that out of there. So there's the difference in color from what we started with to what we finish with. How deep green it is. So through using that heat we can infuse that olive oil with those medicinal properties. So now we'll just add the infused olive oil to there, back in there. We'll put it back in our water bath, and then I'm going to start out with 1/4 of this beeswax. Just 1/4. I'm gonna slice it up and add it to this so it'll melt quickly. And then what I'm gonna have to do is, to find out the consistency, I gotta take it out, let it cool down, and let it solidify and see about the consistency. But I know from doing this last year that I'm only going to need about, probably 1/4 of this. Okay, so I got about a 1/4 of that, 1/4 of that stick cut up, and I'm just going to add it right to my oil, my infused oil. My water's a little bit too hot, so I'm going to turn it down to about 3.5. And I'm going to put it in there. And we'll wait until those are all the way dissolved, and then we'll pull it out and see what our consistency is like. Okay, so only that little bitty piece right there is left. So that took, oh, I don't know, a couple minutes. Really quick. I'm gonna go ahead and pull it off now. I still got some chunks in there, but that's okay. It's not too bad. It just means I cut them up too. That strainer was a little too, it wasn't fine enough. It wasn't thick enough, but it's okay. Chunks never gonna, little bitty chunks here and there, never gonna hurt anybody. So we'll see, we'll let that cool down and see how that solidifies up. And then I'll show you the finished product. Okay, so there we have it. We have our salve. That quarter of a stick of beeswax was plenty. Now that it is cooled, the consistency is just about perfect. But I'll put that in the fridge and it'll last about a year. And that's yarrow and plantain salve. You can put that on cuts, poison ivy. It's good to carry in your pack. And anyway, that's it. Thanks for your views, comments, and support, and we'll see you on the next one.